Hey guys, well, believe it or not, it is a whopping 50 degrees this morning. I can hardly believe it. So anyway, we're losing a lot of snow today. I mean, we still have a lot. You can see how much is on that wood, and that's out in the direct sun. There's at least a foot on there. So like I said before, in the woods, anywhere between 4 and 8 inches, 12 inches. But I've been doing a little bit of cleaning up in my garage. I have a lot of dust in there from work I've been doing. So I was cleaning up today. I backed my truck out so I could do some work without getting that thing all dirty. Dirty enough from just driving on the road. And I need to get some coal, which I got coal in the truck, but I want to get coal and put it in buckets for my wife. So that's where I'm headed today. When I look over at the kiln there, it's right at 100 degrees, so that's good. Maybe we'll end up with a nice spring coming. I don't know. I feel like winter's gonna stay here for a couple more months. We're supposed to get snow, not today. Tonight we're supposed to get rain, and then we're supposed to get some snow. But from what I see, they're talking 1/10 of an inch, which I hate when they say that, but 1/10 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, something like that. So it's not going to be much. So we have plenty of snow to make it feel like winter yet. It's just today's a nice day. Like I said, 50 degrees. Unbelievable. When it comes to winter, I buy my winter clothing at Cabela's. And I'm talking about jackets and pants and stuff like that. And I bought this hat. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I bought this hat at Cabela's a couple of years ago. I think I've had this about 4 years. And I really like this thing because it has a nice amount of fluff on it, so that when you put it on around your ears stay warm no matter what the temperature is outside. So that's why I'm wearing it today, even though it's 50. I guess from wearing it all winter, my ears have kind of got used to having it. When you shovel coal, just so you know, I don't care. I mean, I know that a lot of you don't use coal, and some of you are complaining about coal, but let me just say this. When you buy coal, this size coal, and you fill a bucket, you're talking about 35 pounds in a bucket. Now, the one thing about this, when you get older, believe me, it's nice to have somebody around that's going to help you with coal if you can, especially if you're going to carry it in these kind of buckets. But we also plan on changing over to a different kind of heat. But coal is it's so warm to have coal. It's hard to explain to you. It's a very good heating source, especially in those little stoves. The thing I was going to say though is, like when I was a kid, and I would go visit my grandparents in the winter time, I shoveled a lot of coal for them, would fill buckets and stuff, but their coal bin in the basement was right next to the coal stove, so you could literally get a shovel of coal and throw it right into the stove. So that was pretty easy. But even when my grandpa hit 65, he changed over to diesel fuel, which made my grandmother's life easier. And for me, I don't like diesel fuel. I hate the smell of diesel fuel. The problem is I'm always in it because of the backhoe and other stuff, but I mean, you know, it has its good things about it, where, you know, it's quick to get heat from and stuff, but I just don't like the smell of it. Coal, I don't really like the smell of coal either if you let the sulfur in the house, but if you have a good draft on your chimney and all, you won't have any problems like that. But anyway, what I was saying is you can always reduce the size of the bucket you carry as you get older. You know, for Sally, Sally cannot carry a full bucket. When she does, her eyes break blood vessels and her eyes turn red, like a bloody looking red. So for her, if I made half a bucket, she can easily take a half of a bucket, you know, and carry that if she has to. What I do is I fill 9 buckets because they fit between the patio door and the other patio door. There's enough there for 3 buckets, and I go 3 high. That doesn't really bother the window either. So with 9 buckets, that lasts us more than a week. So I'm getting coal here now. I don't really have to. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 4 buckets in there that are filled with coal, and we're not going to use that much coal on days like today. But we want to keep the fire going because it's just a pain. You waste a bucket of coal to get the fire going. But anyhow, yeah, if you put half the bucket filled with coal, you know, I mean, they dumped it on the truck. I bring it in the garage. If I put half a bucket on the truck, it takes a couple more trips, but you're not really carrying anything that heavy. So to me, as long as you can walk and get around a little, there should be no problem that you can't use coal. Now I taught Sally how to use the coal stove. She was originally not from an area that used coal, so, and she enjoys having it. She likes having it. And she does all the work with it. Like in the morning she'll take out ashes, put them in my big container I have, and then I dump them on the road or, you know, get rid of them. But the thing is it is work. But I see it as a good work because of getting the heat. Now the other thing is, I take a bucket in, a full buckets, and I set them in there. And then in that's on our front porch. Now the front porch has a little bit of coal dust in it, and she's always going after that. But we dump the coal from one of these buckets into a scuttle, and a scuttle only uses about a half a bucket of coal. Now even that she can't really handle too well, so she takes the shovel and shovels 5 scoops of this from a bucket into the scuttle when I'm not around. When I'm home, I put coal in the scuttle for her every single night, and I usually take care of the stove when I'm in the house. But if I'm not in the house, she needs to, you know, take care of it, and she does. So I'm just saying you can use coal right up until you're, you know, pretty old. As long as you can walk and carry, you know, a package, you should be able to handle coal. But you know, I don't know how things go. I'm not that old yet, but I'm old enough to know that it's hard. What I used to do is, because the road was so bad, the guy didn't want to have to bring coal up here. So I would go get a half a ton. This is a half a ton of coal here, and I'd put it in my coal bin. Now I have a reserve of coal in the bin, and I actually like going after it on the truck. It's a little easier than getting it out of the bin. But even at an old age, the bin is not that hard to get the coal out of. So, you know, it depends on what you like. There's a lot of easier ways to do it than this. You can make a thing to scuttle the coal right next to your stove if you have it in a place where you can allow the dust. Now, our heater that we use, the coal stove, is actually in our living room. So we don't want to be shaking the ashes too much or, you know, dumping coal buckets. We don't dump coal in the living room from one bucket into another. We do that on the front porch to keep the dust away. So, you know, it is what it is. It gives you some work to do, but I like it. I like coal. I think it's a savings to use coal. It used to be better. For 20 years, I paid $97 a ton for coal, and all of a sudden, when Barack Obama came in, it doubled in price. So, not too happy about that. So right now, coal's around $230 a ton. Also, there's a lot of different types of stoves. Ours is just a hand-fired stove. So in other words, you have to light the fire by putting paper in, then wood, then coal, and you know, get the fire going, and then you'll be good. Boy, I'm starting to sweat here. Then you'll be good for the fire to stay burning. But I've talked to neighbors. Like I have one neighbor not too far from me, a pretty good neighbor. He bought himself a pellet stove, a wood pellet stove. Now the problem with a wood pellet stove is the pellets don't seem to put out near the heat that coal does to me. And I worked on the stove with him a little bit because I broke a blower on it. But anyway, the stove has to have electricity to run the blower to get the heat out. My stove doesn't need that. Now I do have a blower on the stove for when it's really cold and you want to get every bit of heat out of the stove you can. But normally we just burn it as slowly as we can, and it heats the house up. Now, what I was going to say, a ton of this is $230 or less, depending on where you get it. That's about the right price, but in Pennsylvania. But the thing is wood. You know, these bags of wood, which are lighter, they're lighter than these, but a ton of them are still like $220, $230. So I don't see no big difference in like wanting to change from coal to wood. Now the good thing that he has that I don't have, but you can get, is he has a hopper on the back of his where he fills it up, and I guess it burns for 2 or 3 days, maybe more. I don't know for certain. Might burn for a week. I don't know. But for me, I have to put coal in the bucket every day, twice a day, to be able to get the stove to stay burning good. And that depends on how cold it is. Sometimes the stove usually burns 1 bucket of coal a day, and I need 60,000 BTUs of heat per hour to be able to heat the house on a pretty cold day. Now when it gets really cold, I supplement with some, like if it's 0, I supplement with some propane to help heat the house so it stays around 70. But yeah, so whether you go from coal to wood, I wouldn't make the change like from a hand-fired coal stove to a hand-fired pellet stove, or even a stove that feeds itself, because to me it just seems like a waste of money. However, if something happened to this stove, which it's not going to, this stove is going to outlast me. But if the stove had a problem and I wanted to get rid of that, like say you couldn't buy coal anymore or something, then I might buy that wood scuttle, type pellet stove to heat the house with. But it's not something that I'm even looking at. I'm not looking for that. I don't really care about that. It doesn't seem like it's an issue for me as far as the heat goes. But yeah, it's just, I grew up with coal as a little kid. When I was like 5, 6 years old, I would go down in the basement. My dad used to get big chunks of coal from up in the woods, and he'd bring them with a wagon, and I'd be there with a hammer breaking them up. And it never bothered me to do it then. I mean, I don't have to break up coal now, but I'm just saying, I worked with coal then, and I work with it now, and it doesn't seem to bother me. I'm okay with it. Even if I have to shovel all the coal off the truck every time I get it, at this age, I'm still able to pretty much do that. So anyway, guys, I got to take this into the house, and then I want to go sweep up in my garage. So right now, it's actually 48 degrees in the garage. And when I came into the garage here, you can actually see that the temperature, or feel that the temperature in the garage is much colder than it is outside. So I'm going to leave some of this heat from outside come in to help heat the dog up a little bit. You can see all the dust that I had there from grinding. That's where most of it comes from. I do a lot of grinding because of making different metal adapters and stuff for the sawmill. That's actually taken up a big part of my time that I didn't have to do before, but you know, it is what it is, and I don't mind doing it. I actually like doing it. Okay, so I need to do some more shoveling here and get this mess here cleaned up, because it's mostly bits of metal in that, and I can't really sweep it outside onto the stones because it'll probably give me a flat tire. So I'm just going to sweep it up and put it in my my garbage can. Well, guys, I just got finished doing what I wanted to do in the garage there. So I put the truck back in and stuff. I had a comment that I read just partially this morning, but I read it again about an hour, 15 minutes ago. I went in the house for something and I read the comment, and I just want to show you this. When you go down to Lowe's, they have two different types of this polycarbonate, okay? They have clear, and then they have some that's like a color. And the clear stuff is the true polycarbonate that is what I put on this. Now, this thing has held up here for 3 years, okay? And the only thing I did to it is I had one of the poles standing in there, and I went to shut it, and I drove the pole through the polycarbonate. Now I need to put another piece underneath there, and I keep forgetting it every time I go down to Lowe's. But I just want to go grab an old piece and show you something. So just hang in there. Okay guys, so what I did was I had a piece of this polycarbonate here laying on the other side of the chicken coop to keep the wind from coming through the yard further. So I'm going to take a piece of this into the garage, and I'm going to show you how this stuff works, and you can tell me what you think. So just hold on a second. Alright, so just to let you know, this polycarbonate here was on a greenhouse, a little greenhouse that I made that was standing over by the pile of wood there about 5 or 6, well, must be 6 years ago. Okay, so I just took this out of the snow over there, and I just want to show you how tough this stuff actually is. Alright, so this is the polycarbonate. It's not regular plastic. So I am bending the end of that as hard as I can bend it, and you can see it's not cracking. Okay? It's not cracking. It's not cracking. It's coming back to its shape. Now this is 6 years old. It's been outside for 6 years, and it was standing against the chicken coop, so that's why it's so dirty. But as far as this stuff being able to hold up, 6 years old this is. That's what I want you to know. 6 years, and it doesn't break. Okay, it's not breaking. Now it's true. It's 50 degrees today. When I dropped that roof down onto that 2x4, something had to give, and it didn't even pull out by the screw holes. It actually put a hole through the panel because the end of the board had like a point on it. But what I'm trying to tell you is, you can make a kiln out of glass or all kinds of other stuff. You can spend $50,000 on a kiln and make it letter perfect. But I'm going to just say this. This stuff is about 32 bucks a sheet, and I think that's for an 8 or a 12 footer. I'm not positive anymore. But I got it at Lowe's. They still sell it. And I think it's the best stuff to ever come down the pike. The only thing I would make sure of is it's 2 feet wide. You want to make sure you have a good support at the 2 foot, and have something in the middle, either going this way or running this way at the 1 foot mark all the way up. Otherwise, as long as you're not stretching it more than 2 feet, it'll keep its rigidity and its straightness. Okay, once you're trying to make this go 4 feet, it's already going to start to want to bow a little. Now, bowing is not a problem, other than if something bows and the other one doesn't, then you're going to have water leaking in it. I haven't had any problem with water leaking in, even in that crack that I just showed you over there, because the water comes down that thing so fast that it barely goes into the crack, and whatever goes in there doesn't even last to show up because it evaporates so quickly. But that doesn't matter. I still need to fix it. This piece isn't long enough to do the job, so I'm going to get myself a new piece. But I believe that this polycarbonate, especially on a day like today, as cold as it is, you know, and I'm squeezing that as hard as I can, I believe this is the best way to go with that. Again, you can, if you got the money and you want to waste it, buy whatever you want. You can put glass in there, 2-inch thick glass for all I care. But I think that for what we're trying to do, I believe that this is the best and cheapest way to do it. Now, you know, I know there's people who don't agree with me, and you got to be careful, because if you buy the wrong piece, if you don't buy the true polycarbonate, and you buy the vinyl or whatever it is, it's going to crack. You can't do what I just did. You'll just crack it. You'll even tear it. But this has been on my roof over there for 2 years, I guess it is now. 2 or 3 years. That's even longer. That's been on there for 4 years. I believe it's been on my greenhouse for 4 years. But I had this 2 years prior, putting it on a little shed that I had to start learning how to do hydroponics. And worked very well. Didn't have a problem with it. And like I say, I mean, you can put a hole in it if you hit it with a hatchet or hit it hard enough with a 2x4. But as far as it holding up, if you're gentle with it, meaning treat it like it was glass, don't be bouncing stuff off of it or dropping it all over, it's going to hold up. That's all there is to it. I mean, I'm not doing anything special to it. And sometimes I'm fairly rough with it. Sometimes I drop the whole door down when, you know, I'm lowering it down. But I'm just saying, this polycarbonate, now this is an old piece, but the clear stuff, absolutely clear, okay, that's what you want, is the real polycarbonate. It's either 32 or 60 bucks for an 8-footer. It might even be a 12-footer, but either way, it's expensive, but it's worth buying, because you don't have to buy it a second time, unless you drop something on it like I did there. Alright guys, so anyway, that's the story with that stuff, and I hope that that helps anybody who's looking to make a kiln, because I really believe that that's the way to go. Have a good one. Oh, and this video about this polycarbonate is for I'm Not Chuck, and anybody else who's wanting to build a kiln. Guys, so I looked this up on the computer here before I finished the video, and I just want to see if I can, yeah, you see how clear that stuff is on there? It's really clear. Now you got to watch, they have 2 different types of this down there. One of them I think is plastic. It's $33 roughly for 12 foot, okay? So I mean, you can overlap it or do whatever you want to do. I'm just saying, this is the one I bought, and I actually like this a lot, and I think it's really good stuff. You can see it has a high rating there, 116 ratings, and it's 4.1. Now, I'm not going by what they say. That this, as far as I know, these companies can cheat you. But what I'm saying is, you know, it seems to work out good for me. I like it, and I'm going to use it. But just be careful what you buy. It has to be the corrugated polycarbonate, okay, because they have either plastic or vinyl next to it, and that stuff doesn't last at all. So there's a little building somebody built. I think this stuff is fine. I mean, you know, I have a roof on here that's, my building's 16 feet wide. The roof is at least 8-10 foot, and we've had as much as 2 foot of snow on it, and it's had no problem. If you keep heat in there, it'll melt the snow right off of that thing, and it does have a little bit of an insulating factor to it. Okay guys, that's all I wanted to tell you. So it's $32.97 for a 2 foot by 17 or 2 by 12 foot piece at Lowe's.